It does feel more,
Oh yeah.
it's winter.
It's as thick as it's really going to be. Like in terms of how to think about yin.
Yeah. How to think about both of us in our
How to
black,
think.
dark
Yeah,
hoodies.
I mean, I'm very intentional with my colors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're both in our hoodies.
black jade.
Well,
Yeah,
probably the most yang thing right now is the
yeah,
lighting.
all the lights so you can actually see us. If we were seasonally appropriate, you could just hear us, but you wouldn't be able to see us.
Wow. Yeah, it's that
Right. We would
time.
just be the voice from the void.
So this is the deepest pit of yin, the full moon solstice,
Right. Pretty
winter's.
somber.
Yeah,
Yeah, pretty somber.
this is the pit of yin.
This should be, yeah. I mean, um, one of the major hexagrams for this period of time is hexagram 29, right? The
Uh-huh.
pit. And it's to understand we're in the dark pit, you know.
Are we doing hexagrams first? Connie, shout
Well, I
out
was
Connie.
just kind of popped into my head, but it's really appropriate image, you know, to think about. I mean, some of the other images that I know that being used that we would talk about every year around this time is the igloo, you know, having an igloo around us, all this cold around us, and we're kind of sheltering this little ember of hot, bright yang, you know, but it's very condensed, very small. That is, you know, essentially driving our lives and keeping us warm and you know circulating, but not very fast. You know, just being very intentional and thoughtful with all of our engagements because we have to be, you know, we should be using our yang very, very sparingly.
Hmm.
You know, that's the time of year we can't really waste any resources or vitality. And that's essentially the meaning of rat. Rat is like very vigilant, you know, because every little grain, every little piece matters, you know. So it's really that time of year in general. And to your point, we're on the downslope. You know, the full moon has ended, but solstice hasn't yet hit. So we're in this kind of in between space, which always happens because the full moon and the solstice don't line up, right? So you always have this space where, you know, every moon, every full moon is peak yin of that moon, even if it's in the middle of the summer. But in the middle of winter, it's like that is the full moon is in fact like the peak yin phase. And then the solstice is the collapse, you know, of all that density. The things get so thick and dense that it just sort of, you know, it's like imagine if you had like a pile of laundry in the corner of your room or in the center of your room. You keep adding piles and piles of laundry. Pretty soon it gets to a certain kind of density that it just falls over. And yin, it's like that, you know, like there's no
Right.
intention around it. Doesn't necessarily mean anything, or it means everything, you know, because it is yin is all the possible meaning. And it's just being heaped on, heaped on, heaped on. And then your pile of mashed potatoes just goes falls over. So that's solstice. That is the nature of solstice, is just this like immensity just collapses on itself.
Hmm. Big Bang, if you will.
I suppose so. Yeah. I mean, it is the birth, you know, technically the birth of yang. Yeah.
Yeah.
But more, I think more when you're talking about solstice, we get too excited about that because we're very obsessed with yang, if you haven't noticed. and and so when we think birth of yang, we think, you know, that Young is born like Jesse Owens, you know, it's
Oh
like
yeah.
ready to run
The
like right
birth of
away.
Christ. Come
Yeah,
on.
exactly. You know,
Yeah.
your savior is here.
Yeah. Savior's born. Forget puberty. Like,
Right.
get to work
Get to
now.
work
Save
right
us,
now. Let's
baby.
do it. You know,
Yeah.
and what we're actually talking about is like, you know, is like basically an infant embryo, you know, an
Yeah.
embryo really,
Yeah.
you know, not even like the whole solstice period is more than 3 days in this calendar. It's a span of like 2 weeks. So there is a kind of journey of the collapse and the birth that happens during those days through that chi node. So it's not just like it doesn't all just happen in the 3 days. It's a very fine metaphor for like the birth of Christ and all that. But like for the purposes of the chi nodes and understanding this calendar, it's more nuanced, and that's the idea: is that you're going to get birth, you're going to get rebirth, but shouldn't get too excited about it because you're basically still navigating the collapse. And the collapse is like, I don't know. and that's what happens when yin collapses.
Our astrologer, Seanan.
And that's the whole point of yin collapsing, is that there has been this like great exploration. Yin is where we go to be re-inspired and to be rejuvenated. So that's the whole reason why you shouldn't be working so much. You should be going inward and becoming re-inspired, rejuvenated, nourished. So that way, when yang is ready to be set free in the spring, you actually have something to work with. You actually still have some gas in the tank, some juice. But if you're letting yang up to the surface and out all the time, you don't have any energy in the spring to initiate, and you have to wait for the energy to be provided by the environment. All right. So, I mean, you're basically going into chronic kinds of depletion, because the whole idea of the 11th moon is threefold. Okay. So understand, in the 11th moon, if you want something to happen, you're going to have to use your own energy to do it. It can't get anything from the environment. There's nothing available. So if you want something to happen, you're going to have to use your own energy to do it. Number two, you better get other people involved, because you don't have enough energy to do it by yourself.
Trip out.
Right. So that's the rat. You have to team up. You have to swarm something if you're going to do it. Right. Even just making dinner, it's better as a group, not just one person doing it and other people sitting. Right. Everybody kind of throws in, or potlucks are great, and somebody volunteers to do the dishes, division of labor, because so that way we're not, and no one person is being exhausted. And then the third thing is, it better be worth it. Because if it's not actually worth it, you shouldn't do it. And those are the 3 guidelines for the 11th moon.
That's called a Dharma slap.
Yeah. And then you're like, and if you're thinking to yourself,
what are you doing?
Everything's worth it, then you haven't developed a sense of value.
Damn.
You haven't actually gone inward enough to know what's worth it and what's not worth it.
No discernment.
Right.
Boom. No palate. Get out of here.
And that's really appetite.
Yeah.
That is the nature of appetite. I think Ming said that there are 2 aspects to our qi. First one is to be inspired, to be hungry, to go eat.
Hey.
Right? And the second aspect of our qi is to know when to stop. He called it ceasing with sufficiency. I toy with the wording. It's like cease when sufficient. Like, so how do you know when you're sufficient? You have to have like some sense of value to do that, to know when to stop. So the 11th moon, really all winter, is like where you go to find out how you're done. How do you know you're done? Even in the middle of summer, you should have some discernment, like you say, of value, when you're like, that's enough. That ability to say that in the summer is really contingent on how you behave in the winter.
Beautiful. Guess what?
Is a qigong for that?
There's a qigong for that. So this conversation of like yin collapsing on itself, right? This conversation of stillness and restfulness, storing, if you will, preservation, preparation for spring. There's stillness, mudra, that kind of captures all these conversations. Okay, so the way you'll find it is, we in the West find it special too, that where the ring finger goes, right? That digit right there, that crease, which is opposite your knuckle.
Yeah.
Right? That line right there, we call that ultimate yin.
Oh.
Yeah. And then ultimate.
On the inside or outside?
Inside.
On the inside. Okay.
Right. Good. And then the ultimate yang would be the direct opposite, which is the tip of the middle finger.
Oh, okay.
Right. And so what we're going to do is we're going to connect our thumb to the tip of our middle finger. right? But here's where it gets interesting. Right hand stays a circle, but left hand kind of intercepts. And then the thumb gets placed
On
right
the
at that
inside.
inside
Okay.
line, that digit. Yeah. And then the middle finger gets placed on the outside knuckle of the ring. I hope I'm not over explaining this, right? But if you get it just right, you get one hand that's a complete ring, and then the other hand kind of scoops in there. The thumb goes into the yin. Hey, little juicy fruit action. Okay. Tip of the thumb rests at the base of your ring, and then the middle finger touches at the knuckle of the ring. Anyway, if you get that, you're left with this really beautiful yin yang mudra. And it embraces this kind of inner yin.
Oh yeah, pulling it into the
hold it at the dantian. And if you hold it kind of just right below the navel, it generates this really nice circle, and it's a really nice winter meditation. You do a standing, you can do it seated, right? And so this is called ultimate yin, because when the hand collapses, right, it's inmost, right? And then the tip of the middle is ultimate yang, because it's all right, it wants to go up, right? Anyway,
that's good. A lot of meditation practices, at least the ones that in our lineage are posture based, right? A lot of them are posture based, like where your head is, like in so long, you have to have your like the tip of your chin in a certain leg, and your gaze goes in the right place if you have your head right. And then you have all this other stuff right, and then you seat, like if you're seated, if you're not leaning and back and forth like that, you're in the posture. And when you're in the posture itself, then you have the capacity to actually forget, to sit and forget.
Wow.
Because a lot of it's very interesting, and Ming talked a lot about this, like differences between some of the Buddhist and Taoist understandings of things. And of course, the Buddhists are very focused on mind. So they're not really thinking so much about body, like body, no body, mind, no mind, but for the Taoists, like actually your whole physiology is an incarnation of the cosmological principle. Yeah. So like you are an omen. So your physical body is an omen. Yeah. And like your face, how it sits, like the principle, all of all the Chinese medicine based on this idea that your body is an expression of a cosmological principle.
My body, especially.
So it would stand to reason that you need to have the right posture in order to properly meditate. And it's like nose in the glass.
That's my posture. I love that conversation, because we had Sifu Kisu here recently. Shout out Sifu Kisu. Yeah, Avatar Last Airbender. He's the guy, right? And he was sharing a 5-family pole set, and it's not about pole fighting. It's about holding these postures that the structural alignment is such that it's just physically pressure testably sound. Right. And so it's ugly, right, but it's strong. And then so I'm not fighting you as so much posture. I'm going from one posture to another. You're in my way. And maybe you should know some postures too. And it's kind of in the conversation, because this is from Shaolin, which is Buddhist, which is Chan, which is Zen. Right. And so posture. Right. Right. And
but so, still influenced by Chinese culture. Right.
For sure.
So it's such a hodgepodge.
But yeah, these fighting moves, it's more of kind of likened to, because Bodhidharma came from India, brought it to Shaolin. He, in a sense, brought yoga. And the practice of asana is these sacred geometries with the body. Yeah. And then asana is now not a posture, it's a prayer. Right. Right. And so in doing these staff forms, I'm essentially reciting a sutra with my
Yeah.
body,
Yeah.
right?
I don't mean to say that like the Buddhists don't have a similar like
Mhm.
corollary. They do. Like your prostrations is a
Oh,
yoga.
dude.
Prostrations is a form of yoga. It's a yoga to help like offload your karma so that makes you available for the teaching, right?
Dude,
We're
you could,
going to be
if
drinking some
you
tea.
want to get six-pack abs, prostrations.
Prostrations, yeah. Prostrations, yeah.
Do 1,000 prostrations a
Mm.
day. You will be ripped.
So all of it is about like connecting mind and body, so-called
Mhm.
mind and body. But for the Taoists, obviously, it's the same word, like mind and body, mind and heart, all of it, same. All because there's a notion of like that your incarnation itself is not one thing. It's actually multiple things. You're a composite being, and the whole idea of the five spirits and their relationships to the physiology, right? So he is many things.
This is how Shannon swoons me.
Yeah,
Like,
he is many things.
well, how about this? Let's talk about the one thing we're about to
Dude,
get
this,
into. This
yeah.
has been a process you've been watching this whole time. Yes, all this for one cup of tea. So we're drinking a blend. I figure it's winter. Why not
Oh,
drink Big Snow Mountain, Dasha San?
oh yeah.
But then I've mixed it with some ginseng aroma
Mm.
7572. So it's a blend of some two really rich, dark pours. And now we have angry hot boiling water. It's been rinsed.
Hot, hot, hot.
You still don't have a cup.
Oh yeah.
Oh. Flash steeping. This is my son's cup.
Oh,
Yeah, my son uses this cup.
I miss him. I look forward to seeing him again.
Oh, dude, he's getting big.
He just wants to wrestle you. He just wants like great. He like headbutts you all the time. Mm, adorable.
Here we go.
Yeah, very pragmatic time. I say it's keeping track of the essentials. Um, the one thing about this particular rat moon, in relationship to is that it's modified by fire. It's modified by fire. So I'd say that it's not a major drama, but it can be. I think it depends on your capacity for drama. Um, we're so externalized and put so much emphasis on external conditions that a fire rat moon is prone to outbursts. That's aggressive, excitable. Yeah, that's some of the key words for the fire rat, because the fire, of course, is a rat is one of the branches of water element, and so the fire rat is essentially tempestuous, right? It's not so over the top, but it can be circumstantially. It basically ups the capacity for that we have for compulsion.
That's an interesting thought that rats are native to water. And
Mm-hmm.
then so to have a fire rat speaks to a wild one.
Anxious, just very anxious.
Mhm.
Self-centered. I know nobody's listening to this is self-centered, but if you are, be careful. Yeah, so it does make for a kind of talking to yourself in the dark a bit, like why are they always, it's very comparative, socially comparative. Rats don't do anything without their social grouping. So rat chi and a rat in the 11th moon is a great time for kind of tribal affiliation, strong social connections.
Mhm.
Basically, like the idea of like sitting around telling stories of who we are. Because the 11th moon, this is the other major point that I wanted to make. The 11th moon is a little obscure, is essentially comes back to an illustration of Chinese cultures, or the cosmology, the Tongshu more specifically, draws it back to its shamanic origins. I'll drink some tea with that.
Yeah, dude, you're missing out. It's incredible.
Wow.
Mm.
Mm. That's really tasty.
Yeah, I've been drinking a lot more tea this winter. It feels good.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Now smell your cup.
Aftertaste. Mm.
Yeah, and smell your cup after too.
That's smelling me.
Mm.
Mm.
Okay, so shamans.
Yeah. Um, so from a standpoint of a Taoist tradition, the shamanistic um, sort of conception of the world here, we're recovering theists. So we think to shamanize or to be a shaman is to operate in otherworldly realms, like someplace beyond the physical, beyond the material, this kind of, pervasive, very important, so-called spiritual realm. Okay. So it's not that the cosmology of the Tongshu doesn't have this understanding. It's just that it's much more accessible, generally speaking, than it would be for recovering theists like ourselves, right? We think it's like, because we're human, it's very inaccessible, right? We need special things to go there. And in the case of the cosmology of the Tongshu, that's not really the case. They're always kind of operating with the fact that we're not, that human beings aren't the central story, that there are other things here sort of playing out their embodiment, other realms. Like, for instance, the Taoists have 64,000 types of ghosts, like it's,
Oh, for real?
yeah, like it's a very rich, the idea of navigating the world of the dead and the realms of what we might call spirit, but it's just the other realms, the other beings that happen to exist here. So they sort of co-opted the animistic understanding of the world and created a whole their own Taoist framework for that over the millennia, and many different traditions, kind of speaking to being in engagement in a relationship with the natural world. The natural world is not like birds and trees, it's like much richer, many different types of beings, right? And that's feng shui too, like depending on where you are and how they may influence you, and then understanding our role in it as human beings, right? Very rich, can't cover it all here. It's just to say that for the Taoist understanding of the world, coming into winter is a celebratory time, because you're essentially, if you read the Tao Te Ching, which I highly recommend Ming's translation, obviously, you're speaking to these metaphors of the Great Mother. You're speaking to metaphors of the valley, going back to the valley. So there's this immense unknown that essentially underlies everything, which is we may use the word Tao. And to go back to journey into yin, seasonal yin, is every year you're reminded of where meaning comes from, right? And going back into the darkness, going back to the great valley, going into the womb of the mother. So yeah, very shamanic in that sense. More interesting for us is the Confucian application of that, because they take that and they take it into a social context, meaning that, and it is much more appropriate for both for the rat moon and for the ox moon that's coming up, is this idea of that our social identities are a collective construct, right? And that we're all sort of running on will, we're running on the e-spirit, we're running on ancestral connection. Like, we don't have a lot of energy for anything else, but we do have energy for like keeping the lights on and like making sure everybody's fed, and like you're going through the motions. This sort of unconscious, movement of the 11th moon that's the e-spirit. Basically it's in the driver's seat. So it's taking you to and from work. It's, it's doing all those things that are very well established and habitual. It's in the things you don't have to spend really, you don't spend any energy thinking about them at all. Like I gotta get my kid up, to take care of these things. You don't, any kind of deviation from the program kind of makes you irritable, right? Because that's the E spirit doesn't, it's not very smart. It doesn't know how to deal with that. So you got to wake up the other spirits to help deal with it. So, and that spends energy, and then everybody gets cranky. And like you want to kind of go through the motions. That's what you want to be able to do. That's the reason why autumn is so important, is because you're setting up what it looks like for you to go through the motions. And you can make that as simple or elaborate as you like, whatever you have the energy for.
Yeah.
Right. So you can sort of craft your vessel, right, of how you're going to keep the circulation going. And you have to habituate yourself to that. And that's where so your E spirit can handle many tasks, right? If you're conditioned to it.
Interesting.
But if you're not, then, and you're having to constantly improvise or bring in and think of new things and all of that stuff, there can be some innovation with rat, for sure. But it's usually like, how do I make the best of the situation? How do I use what I got, in order to innovate, say, and to come up with a very simple solution to a complex problem. That's what rats love. Oh, we'll just take it out like this, and then it's done. And then you just go back into this E spirit. Well, the E spirit is actually your ancestors. They're giving you and the dead are very close.
When you first brought up E spirit, you talked about this essence, the spirit that carries you through your routines. The first thought that came to my mind was that Footsteps poem, the Christian Footsteps poem, where it's like, Jesus, where have you been this whole time? I look back, I only see one set of footprints.
Right.
It's like, oh, my child, those are my footprints.
That's when I was carrying you. Yeah.
I'm the E spirit. I'm carrying you.
I mean, it's very interesting that obviously the Christians and other theists have the Christians mainly have their holidays during this time, because they are kind of swapping out their own will, right, for the will of the creator that they've made their alignment with, right? So it is it is carrying them. They're not carrying themselves, or the ancestors carrying them, but something's carrying you, right? Something's carrying you.
Dun,
Dun, dun, dun. So having some understanding of what that might be essentially it's not anything really to think too hard about, unless your will has been co-opted, right? And it's been, and then you're into kind of more of a stressful situation where you have to keep the energy going all the time. Yeah. Then that can be very, very, very quickly depleting. And then you're basically, you're burning up all your yin, all your resources, shot, right? And then you start burning yang, right? That means you're living on coffee, right? That's what you're doing.
5-hour energy drinks.
and then you're burning up your chi.
Yeah. And right? Then you die.
And then you die. But it's really about, and I love talking with acupuncturists.
So we're in the Red Bull phase right now.
Right. We're crossing over into full depletion, trying to avoid vacuity. You're becoming vacuous, you become chi vacuous, then you're non-responsive to treatment. This is where you form all your chronic conditions, is in this realm right here, where you either substantiate them and drive them further in, or you sleep. You actually do sleep. And like, it takes energy to effectively get rest, actually. So if you don't have any energy to get rest, you're just collapsed. It's like passing out, right? You don't actually sleep.
That was another Dharma slap, in case you missed it. Sleep. It's winter. Rest.
So just to complete this idea of like the shamanistic Confucian idea, is that we're all sort of here together, and with these rituals that basically tell us who we are, not just individually, but who we are in relationship to other people. And so that's for the Confucians, that's the Confucian project, is to see how these rituals bring us together. And what brings us together in the ritual is the fact that we are, in fact, all the same. That there is really, truly there's absolute, as human beings, no difference between one human and the next, none. Like that's the Confucian wisdom. And this is the time of year where, again, to coming back to that place to be either, re-inspired or nourished, revitalized, that when you come back to this place and see the truth of that in your own experience, and then see the truth of that and how we work together ritualistically, then that becomes a basis for how we move forward, right, into the next year. So very important time of year, but it's very subtle. It has absolutely nothing to do with accomplishment. It has everything to do with like that kind of inward reflection.
And inward reflection for the sake of inward reflection, not for the sake of some gain or some insight or some benefit.
Right.
It's hard for us to get out of the concept of doing without some end or some,
Right. Yeah. I mean, long ago, like I think it was last month, we were talking about
long
ago.
Yeah. It feels like that though, right? Yes.
Yeah.
We had Olympics this year.
It was a
long ago, but Olympics were this year. So long ago, last month.
We talked about this shifting from doing to being, right? This drawing inward into this kind of being place. And that when you got to the 10th moon, that was like the end of doing, like stop doing, and it's this kind of shift in, nobody listened. But it's really a certain chi node, the two chi nodes before the solstice. That's where yin like gets big enough that basically get us to sit down, and so that's where we are now. But again, once you get to winter solstice, the collapse isn't like collapse, yay, let's run. It's the collapse is I don't know what, and that's the whole when meaning gets so big, all meaning is piled on. Like, how do you choose what's meaningful? You really don't, like there has to be a period of time where you actually don't do anything, right? And don't even try to improve or self-reflect. You're just sort of, coasting. And that's what the winter solstice for the most part is about. Like Ming didn't even teach. Like, no, it's one in ear and out the other. I don't even know what I'm saying. It's like, it's that kind of muddle. And so treatment, is like, it's like, you don't know what's happening in there. When you read the pulse, is that my pulse or is this? Then that's because, yin is both a medium and also it's a medium for which we recognize like we're all in the same soup, so this kind of complete lack of differentiation. Was that you or was that me? Like those kinds of moments, that's what's going on, and will go on for the next couple of weeks until there's like no, that was me, and like, okay, I think I'm me, like, you're kind of stepping back.
Someone was just talking about that today in pulse diagnostics. It's like, is that your pulse or my pulse? Someone just said that today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like that's the nature of like, I mean, think about it. Like if you get just suddenly struck by some mood, you're like, man, and then you're like, wait, what was that? Like, what was that? I mean, I think everybody's had that experience. I often talk about that from a feng shui standpoint, that if you're driving the same route every day and there's this one spot on the 80 where you get really furious at everyone, it's probably not you. It's probably that spot on the 80 where there's some like disembodied human being
haunting,
like, really upset.
Yeah, maybe a transient tent got set on fire.
Something, some sort of like eddy of negativity that keeps swirling. Nobody knows how to resolve it.
Interesting.
And so you drive through it every day, and then you like spew venom at people, and then you think it's them.
That's the MacArthur maze.
Yeah,
it legit is. Yeah. And apparently, the air quality of MacArthur maze is equivalent of like Mumbai, because you have the 80, the 580, the 24, the 13,
Mhm.
the 880, and I think there's one more too, right? And the
And that's it.
980,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And they all converge. You have
Mhm.
the refinery there, you have the docks
And you
there,
got like the water place, like
the water
East Bay
refinery.
Mud is like right
Uh-huh.
there. Yeah,
And then you have Emeryville, which is essentially a landfill
right.
that they built
That they
over.
built on top of a burial ground.
Right. And
You see
so,
where we're going here. Like I avoid that whole area as much as possible, like
yeah.
all the time.
And it's just gridlock every morning.
All most of the time. Yeah, most of the
Yeah.
time. Yeah, there's just like constant tension. Yeah.
So it's not you.
It's crazy. I mean,
It's the
like there's some
architecture.
areas that you should drive through. You should really take your feelings with a grain of salt. You're just
Mhm.
like, okay, for the next 15 minutes as I'm going through this space, I don't even, you don't need to be like a savior or like try to have good thoughts and like, you don't have to go that far. You just be like, I'm just not going to take anything seriously. Like, just let it come and go. And there's a lot of wisdom in that generally, but like when it comes to yin, when it comes to the 11th moon, that's why it's important to keep track of essentials, because anything outside the essentials, eh, you can kind of let it slide, and not really take it so seriously. But if you're aggressive, hypervigilant, and comparative, which a fire rat can be sometimes, then there's like, I want every morsel. And then there's this kind of, major competitiveness that can actually really put a wedge in
Mm.
your relatedness with other people.
Mm.
And you might not care because they're
Mhm.
a total stranger. But what you are doing is building patterns of value and discovering patterns of value in your conduct. When then you start, uh, yeah, forming these things and moving forward with them. So whatever it is that you're sort of discovering or collecting during this time, if you've been doing self-reflection, is going to be really at the kind of a subconscious level, be very informative for how you conduct yourself during the spring and summer, and like what you find in the summer. But again, if you've just been moving, then you're essentially on the verge of depletion and borderline ghost.
That was another Dharma slap.
Sorry.
That one was very obvious.
3 is all I get. 3.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting so many. Well, there might be another. He says only 3. Okay, let's see. We're at rat. Next is ox.
Right.
Dragon year's done.
More or less.
What are we going to do for New Year? Are we going to do another
We should do a talk.
We'll do an ox full moon.
Yeah.
And then
Oh yeah, ox full moon, and then do the New Year's talk. I mean, things will clear up, right?
Okay.
Obviously they clear up. Like I have been, when people contact me right in about now, I'm just like, let me get back to you.
Yeah.
Like just because I have no idea. Like
Yeah.
it is that kind of time of year. And if you think I can figure it out, then you're spending the thing that we talked about. You're spending your life force.
Mhm.
So ask yourself, is it worth it? That's the other thing about like the kind of Confucian worldview, is that being able to identify what matters. One of the major assumptions in the Confucian world, I mean the cosmology and the Tongshuan in general, but specifically in Confucian and Taoist worldview, is we already know what matters, right? And we don't necessarily have to be converted to what matters, because what matters is like deep in our own chest as a human being. It's our inheritance, what matters. And that's what the shamanic one of the other shamanic aspects of the Confucian worldview is, that we all have it, right? So identifying in ourselves is then to identify in somebody else, like automatically. Like if I know what matters, then I know how to approach you, because I know you know what matters, right? So that's why you bow.
Namaste.
And you wait for that. You make space for that to be expressed back to you. and how that person knows what matters. And the detail is not important as much as it is that you do know what matters. And there are certain virtues by virtue of being a human being, since we all are one, that there's a tremendous amount of commonality in what it is we value. Yeah, we want our parents to be well cared for. We want everyone around us should have a full belly. Like these aren't virtues or moralistic because we were raised the right way. It's actually just by virtue of being human. Like you come with those things. And so that's like a real strong aspect of the shamanic tradition that informs sort of shamanic temperament that informs the Confucian worldview. So yeah, shout out to Confucian. So when we're going into, out of this like kind of place, we are kind of coming out holding hands in a way, that before we went into winter, we sort of identified the people that we knew would have our backs, and we kind of made it through and looked after each other. And then once you get to the 12th moon, then we're having discussions about like, well, what do we do from here? Like how do we prepare? And it's really just about preparation. It's not about growth, like at all. It's just about setting yourself up for things to move forward. Right?
Yeah. So maybe right in that ox conversation, it'd be like not so much plowing the line, but seeing the line, or
yeah, setting the lines, getting the equipment out, sharpening our tools. Yeah, before not using them, we're still living on
prep,
but we're getting things ready, making plans, stuff like that.
So getting things ready, making plans. So we'll have a full moon talk for ox. We'll do a new year talk for tiger. You want to do a full moon tiger, which would be a red lantern?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll sort of, in the yearly talk, we'll also talk about tiger, right? Here's the scope for the year. Here's what to look out for in a tiger, and keep your head down.
What do you think about hosting here again?
I think it's a great venue. Yeah, I think it's a great venue. It's just a matter of like how we record it.
Yeah, maybe we'll sit you up here this time since there's like new format in here. And maybe we can hit up grandma and be like, yo, go hard on the dumplings.
Shout out to Mei Zhang.
Dude.
I had some before I came.
Yeah?
So
good. Which did you get, the veggie buns?
I did get veggie buns. I also got the pork buns. And then I bought 5. She gave me 7.
Of course.
Yeah.
So get used to that.
She gave me some dumplings. I bought bao. She gave me some dumplings, and then she gave me some chive, some Chinese chive ones. So I'm really looking forward to that,
bro.
Yeah, I mean they'll be gone in like a few days, and I'll have to go back.
What's really sweet about that lady? What I come to find out, poor thing, she's a widow, and her husband was a vet, and I found her on Facebook, and her entire profile, it's pictures of her going to her husband's gravesite and making food. And immediately I was like, oh, this lady is so sweet, and I come to get to know her, and he died a number of years back. But she doesn't speak any English.
A little bit when I was there.
Right? But minimal English. He didn't speak any Chinese.
What?
Yeah, he was a white dude, white veteran.
No way.
Yeah, army cat. And so this relationship, they had an entire marriage on her food and his ballroom dance.
Are you serious?
I swear, that was how they communicated, because he could cut a rug with ballroom dance. And so the tango, the cha-cha, the merengue, all those.
Wow.
Them older, that generation, they like that stuff, right? So she loves to dance. He loved to eat. They couldn't speak a lick. Who cares? This works.
I had the immediate, like, sometimes when you meet like older Chinese ladies that you're not sure as a a very obviously looking white dude, that they're going to be like scared of you. Right. And she was so nice, so warm. And so I was like, oh, this is wonderful. But I immediately had the feeling of like, we need to adopt this lady. Like, we need to like, like really invest in this person, for some, not just because of dumplings, but just that she just seemed like amazing, like
Yeah.
amazing.
To my knowledge, she's there all by herself. She had a nephew come visit her from China. He was there for about a month or two. He just kind of just loafed around in his pajamas all day and ate food. Good times.
Welcome to our personal conversation.
Winter. Yes,
winter.
Anyway, yeah.
Dumplings.
Dumpling tangent.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is relevant nourishment. No, nourish. You should nourish. Eat dumplings. I mean, they were just so clean, bro.
That's the word.
They were so clean. That's like I've gotten dumplings from other places, and when you have them, you're like, it's good. I'm still gonna eat it, but like it doesn't feel clean like this. Like it just felt super clean.
Doug, she gets all her ingredients fresh. So that was a Shanghai bok choy, which has a longer stem and less leaf.
Okay.
Right. So it's really white part heavy. Right. Then you get bamboo shoot, fresh bamboo shoot that's only available in this time of year because those are the sprouts that come before the spring shoots. So that's fresh bamboo.
I love bamboo shoot.
Only available this time of year, right? And then it's fresh shiitake, fresh bean curd, fresh wood ear, because usually wood ear is dried and reconstituted.
Yeah.
And she does it all by hand. She doesn't have a food processor. Every slice, every cut.
And when I went in there, her kitchen, very big kitchen, but immaculately clean. And like all the dumplings are in this like big freezer at the bottom of her fridge.
Yeah.
And she's just like, oh, you have this, and you have this. Like,
bro, she does it all by hand.
So David found that.
Even her ground pork.
So good.
She doesn't have a food processor. She doesn't ask the butcher. She gets a pork belly and 2 cleavers and chugga 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 chugga. That's all her kung fu.
Okay, so if you come for the thing, the talk.
Yeah. So we'll do some dumplings. So we're
gonna hook you up.
Yeah, we'll do 2.
That's what we just worked out.
We'll do wonton soup because it'll be cold. It's still winterish.
Yeah, right? I remember last year it like rained.
Yeah,
it's like hella cold.
Oh my god. Yeah. So New Year.
Dumpling. Yeah, we're gonna have dumpling soup. We're gonna hook you up because we want to take care of this woman.
Yeah. So Connie, drive up here from San Diego. Sifu says,
it'll be worth it.
We'll feed you dumplings.
That's why I'm coming.
Not to talk or give the lecture.
I'll just be in the corner drinking soup. Huh? I'll be right there.
Yeah, so maybe we'll do like come to the talk, whatever the ticket is, but then $5 bowl of noodles or $5 bowl of dumplings.
You want to come and have noodle soup or dumpling soup?
Wonton soup. Wow. All right. What would Ming do? Nothing. We already discussed that.
Yeah, I mean he's MIA. I mean, that was what I thought was the most amazing thing about like not giving a talk or cooking food on winter solstice. It was just like there's no. It's kind of like
DoorDash.
Well, it's the image I would use is, remember, they don't have this anymore. Remember you used to have static on a television?
The TV actually turns off.
Before it hit like the boo, like just when it's like that kind of static arrangement, and probably a little bit more pleasant sounding, not so like jarring, but just sort of like, there's not really a whole lot there, or rather everything's there. And because there's no differentiation available, it's hard to have discernment, so really it's about like having a lot less expectations. And this will be right around the Western New Year when everybody gets really crazy. and makes these New Year's resolutions that go nowhere. And that's why, because it's during this time where you're like, I feel like I should be, and like you have these big proclamations, but they're said to the void, so they don't really latch on anywhere.
Wait till March.
Yeah. I mean, if you have if you're coming out of winter with strong inspirations, good for you. That's great. I think it's wonderful. That's not required. That's my point. It's not required. To your point about like the rest, we don't rest so that we're better while we're awake. We rest because it's one of the three things we have to do. We have to eat, take in tianqi, take in guqi, and we make blood, and then we sleep. And that we have to do those things, so you go into the winter, it's like going to sleep. So it's not that you have to wake up every day after sleeping being like, I'm hella inspired, like, let's do it, like that's not required. There's nothing about that that's required. And so spring it's not required either. But if you do, good for you. And then like then you can actually there's some it's a fire ox. So there is a tendency to overdo it, so pace yourself.
Ox native wood, ox native earth.
So it's the it's earth comes up and shepherds the transition from winter to spring. Right, so it is the damp cold, right, that comes with the earth. So it can create medical conditions if you sort of expose yourself to the damp cold. Stagnation, chi stagnation.
How do you like the tea today?
It's very good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Rich, dark, malty.
Yeah, very malty. It's like I'd love to have, what I'd love to have with this? The sampas. You ever had sampas? Sampas is like barley flour. When I was in Kham territory in Tibet with my friend Sasha Matuzak, we were traveling in this kind of snowy territory and staying in these like whatever Tibetan would put us up. And we were basically given black tea with yak butter, yak butter black tea. And we drink them out of these big bowls like this big around, like pretty big. So it's like milk tea. And we had to, he's like, they could drink more. And you drink down and you get to this like just under halfway, right? And then they like take a big scoop of barley flour, put it in there, work it around. And if you wanted sugar, they give you sugar too, because like you're from the West, you probably want sugar, but you just work it around. And if you have the right amount of dough in proportion to the available liquid, then it basically becomes Play-Doh. And then the bowl's clean. And then you just put it in your thing, eat it. I was like, that's what I would love to have with this. It's like the kind of barley, rich taste, and you have this like basically doughy. It's like basically cookie dough with
it's fucking Tibetan cookie dough.
Tibetan cookie dough without any transmission. Feel that without any chocolate chips and without any sugar, right? So it's just you're just carrying around a roll of Tibetan cookie dough inside your chupa
with yak butter. Oh my god,
with yak butter and black tea.
Wow,
very rich. In high altitudes, it's good for energy to keep going.
Glazed caramel crust.
Carrying inside my furry chupa.
Well, organic sea salt, Celtic sea salt. All right, so we're blazing through it. Triunes. Good luck, bad luck. Who knows?
Where was I going to start?
Rat, dragon, monkey.
So the rat, with the rat, I think that get your ducks in a row, because this is the sort of the end of the good line for you, for rats. And it's not going to kind of turn around again until towards the end of the horse year.
Huh.
Right. So for the next couple of years, a little risky.
Take it easy, huh?
We'll talk about it in the yearly talk, but snakes and rats,
Notorious.
So there is a kind of catch you by surprise kind of vibe with snakes.
Are they legit? No, they're one off, but still, because snake pig are the ops.
Yeah.
But
so for me, anytime I do assessments, I'm basic. Of course, there's the diametric.
Yeah.
Right. But either side of that diametric, sometimes they're the ones that get hit the hardest. Not directly to the diametric. That's not necessarily the case for pigs, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They don't always do. But there's some particular caveats when it comes to snake ear that will be important to discuss that are kind of mitigating factors. It's not just, if you're a pig, good luck. There are other things that we're going to discuss in terms of like whether a snake ear is good for you or so-called bad for you. But when it comes to the rats, it's your moon. Your moon is ending, right? You're made for this, kind of keeping track of things and being adaptable and being resourceful and helping others and looking out for people, but also knowing when to draw the line. You're really, really good at this. So this would be good. This would be a good energy to kind of maintain. So it's a good time to kind of get your ducks in a row and your resources in line, like really see what's going on, because you are likely to experience some surprises in the spring. So it would be nice to kind of like have backups on your backups, is what I would say. And so
my contingencies got contingencies.
That'd be a really good idea for every rat, like have contingencies, because you're good at it.
Wow.
So you should do that now, like have an idea about how that's going to look.
That reminds me of the story of David and Goliath, which I've heard my whole life.
Yeah, like an AK behind it. Not just the sling.
Yeah, he knew that he was going to take down Goliath with one rock, but he grabbed 5 from the rivers. And then so the question is like, if he trusted God's faith, word that he could take him out with one rock, how come he grabbed 5? Since Goliath had 4 brothers.
It's a good story.
Anyway, so rat.
Monkeys and dragons, they do very well in this.
Could have told you. I could have told you.
Really well.
Ask me how monkeys are doing. I could have told you very well.
They're adaptable. So they're kind of like looking for trouble. This guy, he's looking for trouble and maybe even causing trouble in order to be able to have the capacity to respond to it. I mean, how do I know what I can do unless I create the mess in the first place?
Yeah, well, yeah.
So both monkeys and dragons can use the rats' kind of ingenuity, here for sure. It's, it doesn't stop them from being kind of held back by the season, but they can, kind of make do, with what they got very, very, very well. Yeah. So they feel, empowered, let's put it that way, that they don't feel the obstruction nearly as much as the rest of us. But so snakes and oxen and roosters, all of them need to wait, right? Everybody needs to wait, for the most part. But those 3 do pretty well at waiting because they can see what's required, because all 3 of those have the capacity to they see the meaning right on the surface of things. Snakes dig a little deeper. Well, this indicates that such and such and such or such. Like they can see the kind of layers, but they're working with surface material. And the oxen they're not looking any deeper. They're just staying right with what's on the surface. So right now, oxen are building kind of momentum going into going into the next year. It's actually good for them. They should still kind of take it easy, not overdo it, but just sort of focused on simple things. Simple things. All three of these do well with simple principles. Like, I'm only going to be working with these three things or these two things. And they can kind of have that sort of perpetuate, on its own. But the simplicity aspect of the rat actually does very well for the rooster. It keeps them out of their head. So they should keep it really, really simple, because roosters do, in a rat moon, do have a tendency to kind of get in their head a bit.
He said it, not me.
They do, because there is a kind of simplicity to the rat that the rooster then makes complex, right? So they want to extrapolate when the rat's just like, no, just do four things, like, just keep it simple, don't take it into complexity. So they can all three of them can do this sort of simple road and find great value in it. The rooster is the only one that kind of has a tendency of like reading too further into it, and they don't do as well with that as the snake does, because the snake isn't really interested in taking anything seriously. But the rooster does take it very seriously all the time, right? So rooster is always looking for meaning, always, kind of hunting for the purpose and the value. So this can be a really good time for them. It'll be better in the next moon when things kind of like are forced to be more simple, right? The ox is like, you only have time for this, like, so just do this, right? And they'll be able to help other people manage things better. Roosters. Anyway, that's the next one.
Tiger, dog, and horse.
All of those very action oriented, movement oriented, in which case you should really
take it easy.
You shouldn't even be able to find them. If you know a dog and they came to your house, or you're able to kind of like hang out with a dog, like thank them for their presence. And they really are only kind of like locked down with their essential people. Like, so they should be hard to find. Tigers and horses, absolutely, even more so. There is this kind of funny thing that where right around the solstice is where tigers mate, because they are like trying to birth. They're the most young out of any of the earthly branches, but in the cosmology itself, they are the most young figure, is the tiger. And so in the solstice, at the depths of this confusion and all that, they're just instinctually breeding, right? Wow. No words, right? It's not like it's just, like this kind of primal kind of aggression. Hot. Yeah, super hot. Tigers are amazing. So they have this instinct that is birthing right now, an instinct for birthing, right? And so they should be careful with that. Don't hurt nobody.
Contraception.
Let's just be careful. I think I was conceived in the winter, actually.
Well, it makes, fire rat and fire ox,
right?
Tiger.
It's a lot of aggression. And so, and the one, speaking of diametrics, horses, like, yeah, you should be really taking it easy. If you're not already injured, like really like pare it way down. Like, you should not be very active at all. Like, go ahead and get fat. It's okay. Like, it's okay. You'll burn it off, next year. So like, relax, relax, please relax. It's better for everybody if you relax.
So
and then that leaves us with the domestics.
Goat, rabbit, and pig.
Yeah, I would say like you already know. You already know. Like, you should be. It's 7 o'clock and it's well past your bedtime. Like, that's kind of how the domestics are right now.
We need to turn off these bright white lights.
They are pretty much on lockdown. They're kind of like the dog, in the sense of hard to find. They're not all of those, especially the goat. Should really kind of stick within they're the ones that are most outgoing. Typically, because they're kind of like, they have a larger social circle. I mean, I guess they all do, but it should really be tight circles, like
Mhm.
essential personnel only. Like that would be the recommendation for, especially in a fire rat. They would probably be the ones, the domestics would be the ones like kind of vulnerable to that kind of backtalk sass kind of comparative compulsive action that can create divisions and grievances between other people. So they may be feeling the kind of oh, actually, yeah, the domestics in general kind of feeling the kind of edgy quality, that comes with the rat, and it's really not to their liking. So instead of pushing back, just go ahead and disappear, like be discreet, um, and hang out with the people that don't really give you that talk back.
Irish goodbye.
Right. I was trying to write about that for tomorrow. It's
Uh,
like, yeah, go ahead and like, now you see me, now we don't, like, oh, well, he was just here. He's already gone. Yeah. Yeah. Irish goodbyes, perfectly fine. If they're upset with you, then they're not really your friend.
Ooh, I thought he said no more Dharma slaps.
That's
Oh.
one, the parting shot. Yeah. If people don't like your Irish goodbye, then they're in the 11th moon. Yeah. Then they're much too aggressive for any of those domestics and the dog. You guys should be given a free pass for all your Irish goodbyes for sure.
Okay, so that covers it, dude. I think all that's left is a flavor
Slow.
of slow, but
Yeah. Stop.
no, that was last moon. Last moon
Was
was
it stop?
stop. Yeah,
Oh,
so now it's like go
sleep.
in, sleep.
Sleep
Yeah,
is good. Yeah. Be
hibernate
asleep early. Um, I was, when nature tells you to stop, you stop where you stop.
or you're stopped. Yeah,
Yeah,
stop
you
or be
you stop
stopped.
where you right where you're stopped. That's kind of the gravity of the 11th moon, and it feels like a tragedy if you're stopped like that, right? And you're like, oh, because you're still projecting ahead.
Mhm.
But if you've conducted yourself well, if you haven't misconducted yourself, then you don't even notice.
Baby Dharma slap.
You just found yourself stopped. You're just like, oh, I haven't really done much. Like
Mhm.
I've had a couple of days like that where I like kind of start judging myself for my lack of productivity. And I have to, I'm from this culture, hyper aggressive culture where I need to kind of justify my existence all the time.
Yeah.
But and I have to say, but wait, no, I'm not supposed to do anything. Wouldn't it be great? Don't you remember, like when you were a teenager, you basically didn't do anything from getting up to going to bed?
Yeah.
Like, wow, amazing. But you should be doing that at least once or twice during the winter. It's like, yeah, no, just let it slide by.
Rock your bed head and pajamas all day.
Yeah.
But, all right. So
Careful with travel if you have to go see family. And going to see family, being around tribal conditions, and essential kind of seeing family. Like Ming always used the image of the Yule log. We're all kind of coming into this like hot hearth, in ourselves. And then if we all gather around a fire like that, so there's a hearth there that's reflecting, the energy that we have together. Very primal. Fire is the first medicine. Fire is the first ritual. Is having a fire together, like especially in winter. Very important. Like ancient technologies that like we really can't do without. So if you maybe have phones, that's also fire. Little fires that we carry around in our pocket. But like, FaceTiming with other people. It's a fire thing that we're doing. But I think that there's still a lot of juice in like sharing a fire together.
Dude, don't even get into like phones being like scrying mirrors and mirror mirror on the wall. Like it's talking FaceTime Dick Tracy style.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting elemental configuration of metal and fire, right?
Yeah,
And it's like
wild
and then becomes
sorcery.
watery. Yeah, like you can do all kinds of crazy shit with this thing. like half a world away. Somebody could be affected by your presence. I had this a while back. I had this woman contact me on WhatsApp, and she just started furiously texting at me. She had read my stuff online, and she's like, "I'm in India. Like, I'm a young woman. I have no prospects. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. What should I, like, I need answers."
Take it easy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I took a look at her chart, and I'm curious about
You
what
Dharma
happened to her.
slapper?
Well, I basically said you're in the wrong place. Um, you have to go. You have to give up your comforts. I think that's what I said.
Ooh.
You won't find what you're looking for where you are, which is often the case for some. Anyway,
On that note.
on that note, many Dharma slaps for you. Thank you.
Great conversation today. Thank you. Perhaps soon there's conversation of expanding this production. So don't get your hopes up just yet.
We're going professional.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, by next goat year or by next goat
Ooh,
moon.
that's a good one. Yeah, yeah.
By next goat, because then next goat moon, that'll be our third
anniversary.
Four? No.
Did we start in 2021?
We started goat year.
No.
Goat moon.
Goat moon tiger? 2022?
Yeah.
2022.
We had a tiger, and then we had rabbit,
and
then dragon. So we had 3. We're going on 4.
Could be. Could be.
Yeah. So by goat moon, big production on the way. Give us some time.
Bye.